Tennessee, or Alabama. Drive away from your credit challenges today and come see me, John Davis, during our credit forgiveness event at Kia Cleveland on South Lee Highway in beautiful Cleveland, Tennessee, where getting approved is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Looking for the dealer who's gonna give you more. Kia of Cleveland Superstore.
Subject to lender approval. Offers don't combine. Expires month end.
KiaofCleveland.com.
ESPN Cleveland 101.3 is powered by Duracell.
This is Thomas Williams with Mountain View Nissan of Cleveland. Stop by today and take advantage of Bradley County's largest pre-owned inventory, or visit cleveland-nissan.com, home of the lifetime warranty.
You're listening to Paul Feinbaum on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. The Drive is coming up. The ESPN Cleveland 101.3 lineup is supplied by Wholesale Supply Group. WholesaleSupply.us.
Hey, Andy Morris here. Join me along with my co-host on The Drive, presented by Hardees, weekdays at 5 p.m. on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. Cleveland and Bradley County's local sports show, weekdays at 5 on ESPN Cleveland 101.3.
From the Kia of Cleveland Studios, this is ESPN Cleveland 101.3, WCLE HD2 Cleveland, W267BI Cleveland, ESPN Cleveland 101.3.
The top of the hour is presented by Best Buy Metals, making the top of your house the best it can be. Visit bestbuymetalroofing.com.
It's time for The Drive on ESPN Cleveland 101.3, presented by Hardees. We will bring you nonstop sports news from the national and local scene and everything in between. So buckle up and join in on the conversation. It's The Drive.
Don't take no slap. Got a thirst for killing.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to The Drive. Excited to be with you once again. We are streaming on mixtv.tv, on YouTube, and on Facebook. And, of course, right here on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. I'm Andy Morris. My friend Jim Gum in the building with us today, and we've got a lot to talk about between all the local sports that have taken place over the weekend. Of course, we know that weather has been a factor and changed so much, especially with high school baseball, high school softball, and not to mention got to cover our Atlanta Braves, kind of a head-scratcher coming out of that Pittsburgh series, which, you know, we thought Braves might go up there and sweep the series. Instead, they dropped 2 of 3.
Yeah, it's really surprising to see that they didn't win the series at all, that they only won 1 out of the 3 after taking 3 to 4 at home against the Reds. And it's just a lack. Well, the Braves are one of these teams you never know what you're going to get from day to day. But was it 3-2, 3-2 were the 2 finals the first 2 days, and then yesterday 4-3. So all in 1-run games, and the Braves could have won all of them. They could have lost all of them, for crying out loud. So, yeah, they just don't have that offense just not clicking. They're getting pretty decent starting pitching for the most part, but it's just I don't know, man. Their offense is very, very sluggish, and they can't get that oh gosh, what am I looking for? The clutch hits at times. Although Murphy did get that bases clearing double the other day that made it 3-3, but they're just not doing what we're used to seeing. They're just not.
Tell me if you feel the same way. I feel like there have been some big moments here, just as you alluded to, where the clutch hits haven't been there, but they're waiting for offensive production to happen in late innings and crunch time when they got to score. And right. I feel like they're relying too much on being, what was it, the 22 team that kept coming back and were just resilient. It didn't matter if they were down 5 runs or 2 runs or 1 run. They would come back and score just enough to win games. I feel like they're trying to do that, and it's not working. They've got to have earlier production.
Yeah, they are the highest scoring team in the 8th inning in Major League Baseball, but most of that because they're behind and they're having a big 8th inning to get close or maybe tied up. But man, you got to. Those first 7 innings are important too, man.
Yeah, that's unnecessary pressure you're putting on yourselves, and part of that, listen, we know that, you've got some guys that are not in your roster. You had some situations with Jared Kelnick that he didn't quite pan out how you thought he was going to. But every major league team deals with that stuff. But some good news is we've got some breaking news from Mark Bowman of MLB.com. He's the Atlanta Braves beat writer. He has reported that Ronald Acuna Jr. has been cleared to begin a rehab assignment tomorrow. Can you believe that? Tomorrow. Seems like it got here quick. And that'll take place down at Braves Rookie League in Northport, Florida. And he will play the field. He'll play outfield. They'll see how it goes before they place him in a higher minor league, be it AAA or AA, wherever they decide to put him. But once again, that is per Mark Bowman of MLB.com, and I feel like that's kind of snuck up on us, and it couldn't come at a better time.
Well, assuming that Ronald Acuna is the Ronald Acuna we're used to seeing when he does make it back to the big league team, you put him in the leadoff spot, and the whole dynamic of that Braves offense changes instantly. Because, we all know watching him, he's such a table setter. Even if it's a walk, and then he'd steal second, he's standing on second base, nobody out, in scoring position, and all of a sudden the Braves are putting up 2, maybe 3 runs, top first or bottom of the first, and putting the pressure on their opposition, and that's just not happening right now. And guys like him are so key. We all know that Ozzie Albies is struggling right now, but, if he could get his game back to what we're used to seeing, if Matt Olson can get that big bat going again, if you get a few key guys going along with Ronald Acuna, we could see a Braves team that's putting, 5, 6, 7 runs on the board every night. And you do that, and all of a sudden the Braves are, instead of 2 games under 500, they're, now they're competing with the Phillies and Mets for the National League Eastern Division.
Yeah. So upon his return, and we're jumping ahead. We got to see how this rehab assignment goes and see how quickly he can get back to the big league club. But you're looking at the Atlanta Braves outfield. You've got Michael Harris, who's got center field locked down. And then you've got Eli White, Stuart Fairchild, who have both contributed fairly decently. I think Eli White more so. And then, of course, Alex Verdugo, who has been an absolute spark plug for this club. I feel like it's pretty obvious, pretty clear-cut that it'll be Michael Harris, Alex Verdugo, and Ronald Acuna Jr., your starting outfield.
Oh, for sure. And Ronald Acuna, when healthy, he's a Gold Glove type outfielder. He's got great range. We all know that. Very good arm, and with that speed in his. So obviously, the worry that you have is someone like him doing something to his lower extremities, going after something 100%. But Ronald Acuna doesn't know any other way to play other than 100%. And I don't think they'll put him in the lineup until they really feel like he can do everything that we're used to seeing. But the key, though, is getting him in that lineup and getting that first inning threat back that really is not existent right now. And I think if they get him back and they put the pressure early in the ball game instead of doing it late, I think the Braves will be a very, very difficult team to beat.
Yeah, it's wild to me, though, when you think about what this outfield could look like with him coming back. And you go back to that Jerickson Profar suspension, that 80-game suspension. And a lot of people, out of sight, out of mind, aren't thinking about Jerickson Profar. You forgot about him. That was a huge pickup. That was a huge addition to that outfield. And you talk about a guy that could really be bridging the gap right now with no Ronald Acuna. Can you imagine if you've got Profar out there with Harris, who, listen, Harris has had his struggles, but defensively, I don't care. That makes up for it the way he plays the outfield. And I think his bat will come around him being more consistent. We saw him have 3 or 4 hits in a game the other day.
Well, against the Reds, he really was a clutch. Yeah. He was very, very clutch against the Reds. So we know what he's capable of doing. And I think you're right. You get an outfield like that, and assuming that everyone stays healthy, I think the Braves are poised to have a very, very good June. And by the time the All-Star break rolls around, I think you'd see Atlanta, contending for the National League East again. And I think that would be, that's what everyone's looking for. And then on the pitching side of things, the starting pitching is very, very good, and it could be stronger coming up pretty soon as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And with that, Mark Bowman of MLB.com, once again reporting, the Atlanta Braves beat writer, stated that Spencer Strider will throw 5 innings, 70 to 75 pitches Wednesday in a simulated game. So that being announced by Mark Bowman as well. Braves will then decide if he needs to make a rehab appearance before being just immediately activated to the big league club. So depending on how that goes, they might just say, hey, you're going to be back in the rotation, which is, in my opinion, great news for this pitching rotation.
I mean, if you get Sale and Strider doing what they're capable of doing, you talk about a 1-2 punch. They don't take a backseat to any team in baseball when it comes to 1-2, and like I said, and the other starting pitching has been very, very good. My biggest problem with the Atlanta Braves as far as on the mound is Raisel Iglesias. I just don't think he's the guy. I know he's had his moments of goodness, but he's not the pitcher he once was. And every now and then it shows. And against the Pirates, he blew it a couple times. It's just it's frustrating as people that follow the Atlanta Braves. You know it. I mean, you're a diehard Braves fan. We talked about this in early April, Andy, that until the Braves get that lockdown closer, when that 9th inning rolls around, you're sitting on eggshells. You think, is he going to blow it again? And sometimes he comes through, but man, as the closer, you got to have about an 80% success rate, and that's not where we're at right now with the Atlanta Braves at the closer position. Now, I think their middle relief has been fairly good here. I don't know if any of those guys could transition to flip-flop, maybe become the closer, and Raisel Iglesias maybe come in the 7th or 8th. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the manager. I watch them on TV, and I manage from my recliner.
That's it.
But whenever I see Raisel Iglesias, I don't have confidence. I don't know how you feel.
No, I feel the exact same way, and I hate it because he's a guy that has been so consistent over the past 3-4 seasons, and anytime he's taken the ball in the 9th inning, you feel like, hey, this guy's going to lock it down. One thing that I feel like the Atlanta Braves as an organization historically has done is they've had a guy, be it Craig Kimbrell, who I'm going to get back to here in just a second, be it Raisel Iglesias, be it Kenley Jansen more recently, whoever it is, Mark Wohler's going back to the 90s. You've had a guy that can lock things down at the end of the game. Billy Wagner to teach those young guys like Craig Kimbrell and Johnny Venters. And I feel like that's something that can't go unaddressed. And I think that there's steps within your system that you can go through, and Craig Kimbrell may not be the answer, but the way he's throwing the ball in the minor leagues right now, they say his velocity is up 4 to 5 miles per hour from where it was last year. He's not allowing hard hit balls, which is huge. His swing and miss rate is up. Again, it's all relative. We're talking minor league baseball, but those things alone let me know that, hey, Craig Kimbrell's rested. Now, he's a vet now. He's been around since, I believe, 2010 was his rookie year. He's a seasoned veteran. He's on the tail end of his career. But if he can come in and give you half a season in the 9th inning, he could be the answer.
Yeah, he could. And what I personally think is what's going to happen, and it won't be just the Braves. Listen, the National League is so stacked this year. I think it's considerably better than the American League. You'll see not only the Braves, you'll see other National League teams trying to make some big trades at the trade deadline. The question is, you got to beat some of these other contenders to the punch. Don't wait till that week before. I think the Braves need to go do this. They need to do it now.
Yes.
Go to one of these American League teams that's having a down year, but maybe they have a guy that the Braves feel like hey, this can be the difference between what we are now and what we can be. Make that trade. Yeah, you may have to trade a frontline guy. I know that a lot of Braves fans don't want to think about trading a starter right now. But sometimes you got to do that to get the guys that you really need more than that. So we'll see what the Braves do. But don't wait. Don't let the Mets or the Phillies get that closer ahead of you. Be aggressive, but be proactive, not reactive.
So the biggest thing is a bullpen piece in general. It doesn't have to necessarily be a closer if you can get Kimbrel up and productive in the ninth inning, and I get where you're coming from. But either way, if it's going after that ninth inning guy or a guy that's a long, you've got to find some more bullpen pieces because that is an incomplete bullpen right now.
It is. And would you be opposed to one of the starting 8 getting traded for a lockdown? What's the shortstop, the new shortstop? What's his name?
Nick Allen.
Would you be opposed to trading in Nick Allen?
Well, so
or Verdugo. Would you be opposed
funny
to one of
that
those
you
guys?
say that. I don't want to take away from the outfield depth, and I love what Verdugo has been for this team. And I'm not putting all my money in the piggy bank of Jerkson Profar coming back and being effective either, coming off of a PED suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to touch that outfield much. But you bring up Nick Allen. There's been some rumors that Sean Murphy is a tradable piece.
Well,
because Drake Baldwin has kind of shown and proven like, hey, this guy could be our everyday catcher.
Yeah.
He's young, and you could trade Sean Murphy to a team that needs a solid veteran catcher who, listen, has been considered one of the top 5 catchers in baseball each of the past 5 seasons. So I could see Sean Murphy being traded for a shortstop to solve that problem with Nick. Listen, Nick Allen's been pretty good, but he is not the elite shortstop you need. I could see Sean Murphy being the trade piece and that bullpen piece
that's what I'm
that
thinking.
you need.
I
could see it going either way there. And if you make that move, then maybe you're more able, I guess is the word, to trade Nick Allen for that whole dynamic between Sean Murphy, Nick Allen, needing a bullpen piece, needing a solid shortstop, that it could all work together, and it could be a couple deals.
Well, let me ask you this. We talked about how happy we are generally with the starting pitching. Would one of those starters, would they be willing, or would the Braves be willing to put him in a relief role, assuming that Strider comes back?
They've done it before.
But that's an option. Now, there are some guys whose mental makeup, they're a starter. But in their mind, they're a starter, and they don't want to be relegated to bullpen work. I think the mindset has to be right. Listen, when and this is going back a long, long time, when John Smoltz did that, and he was willing to do it, he was the best closer in Major League Baseball.
There's no doubt.
By far.
He was phenomenal.
By far. Could a starter for the current Atlanta Braves, or maybe a starter somewhere else, could you get them to buy into a closer role? And, maybe these guys could be a 2-inning relief guy, an 8th and 9th inning guy.
And I hate to see this guy not be in your starting rotation because he's shown some glimpses of being a great starting pitcher. But as soon as you started saying that, there was one name that came to my mind, and it's Grant Holmes.
Yeah.
He's been there. He's been in the bullpen. He's had success.
He looks like a closer.
He does.
With that hair.
He does.
He's got that.
He's just got that mean mug.
Bulldog look
Yeah.
about him. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. So it's very, very touchy because we've played sports, and some guys have a mindset about how they are.
Approach is huge.
Yeah. Look, you've seen what's going on in Boston with Rafael Devers. He's right now, he's in a bad place mentally. And some guys can't change and be successful. Some guys can. Obviously, we're not talking about a pitcher in Rafael Devers, but guys like that are they're out there. Some guys are willing to, hey, whatever it takes, coach, I'll just as long as the team wins or a team guy. And some guys are not like that. It just depends on the mental makeup.
Yeah, and I'm glad you threw out the term mental makeup because, listen, being a wrestling coach and a former wrestler myself, there is nothing more important in all of sports, but especially in the sport of wrestling, than the mental side of things. If you're doubting yourself, you're defeating yourself already. If you think that you're not versatile, you won't be versatile. And I can tell you from personal experience of mental makeup, like I remember trying to wrestle and do things a certain way because I liked someone that wrestled that way. I was like, wait a minute. And I'd see someone else, maybe I could do that. And it worked better for me, even though that's not what I had kind of mentally thought I was going to do. And you have to be able to be flexible and make adjustments to what fits your skill set the best. And I think pitching's the exact same way.
It's so funny we're talking about this mental makeup. I don't know if you saw the reaction when the women's softball field was released, and Oklahoma was the number 2 overall seed. and then Boston University was shown that they drew Oklahoma. They looked defeated on camera. They were putting their hands on their head, and I'm like, they have no chance to beat Oklahoma because
it's over.
They were depressed when they saw who they're going up against. You can't be like that in athletics. There's always a favorite. There's always that underdog role. But most true underdog teams are like, hey, I can play with those guys. They're not any better than me. You got to have that mental makeup. And when I saw that Boston University women's team, when they showed that they were going against Oklahoma, and you could see if they were like, oh my gosh. I'm like, they have no chance. They're already beat before they get to the ballpark.
I think that says a lot. I don't know who their coach is. That says a lot about your leadership.
It does.
Says a lot about your coaching, but that's something that they might want to try to address before they take to the diamond. But, hey, real quick, we do want to thank Mayfield Dairy because when it comes to Mayfield Dairy ice cream, you'll never have a boring bite. Their limited edition ice creams, cherry chocolate chip and banana pudding, are inspired by traditional Southern recipes and seasonal favorites. Pick some up today at your local grocery store, and you can visit them online at mayfielddairy.com. Once again, Mayfield Dairy is a huge, huge sponsor of our Atlanta Braves here on The Drive on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. And to just give a quick recap before we go to break, the Braves still not at 500, currently sitting at 19-21. Thought we're going to take care of business up in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, we lost 2 of 3 to the Pirates, losing that game on Friday 3-2. The one win came in that Saturday game, 3-2, still too close, man. We're playing too many close games. And Sunday lost 4-3, and not having that clutch hit, not being able to have that into the bullpen pitching, as you alluded to, as well is part of the problem. But the Braves have won 7 of their last 13, so this is something that can be corrected. Everything that we just talked about are things that could happen, or something that we have no clue at all about could be in the works right now that's going to fix this, and this team could end up being in a race for first place in the National League East.
Absolutely. You get Acuna back, you get Strider back, along with Austin Riley and Olsen and all those guys. I think you'll see a lot more powerful offense, especially when run on Acuna. And with Strider, we all know what he's capable of. When he's on, he's about as effective as any pitcher in Major League Baseball. So, it's the future for the Atlanta Braves is very bright, especially as June is coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, the good news is the Braves are third in the National League East, and they're only 6.5 games back. That's not a crazy amount out of first place in the division.
But that National League, you think about it, you got the Mets and Phillies in your division. Out west, you got 3 teams. You got the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants. The Central Division is probably the weakest of the division. The Cubs are good. They're not great. But, man, you've got really the East Division and West Division, 3 teams in both divisions, very, very powerful.
Yeah, tonight the Braves are back home to start a 4-game series with the Washington Nationals, who are currently 4th in the NL East with a record of 17-24. First pitch is tonight at 7:15. Grant Holmes, the guy I was just talking about on the mound, and who knows? Hopefully this isn't his last start, but who knows? He could end up being in that bullpen for the Braves. He's 2-3 with a 4.58 ERA. He's taking on Jake Irvin of the Nationals, who's 2-1 with a 3.94 ERA. Of course, that game will be on Mix 104.1 and ESPN Cleveland 101.3 pre- and post-game show here on ESPN Cleveland 101.3, presented by Mountain View Nissan of Cleveland. And with that Braves coverage, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more baseball. There's some news from around the league, some different things that went on today. Colorado, worst team in baseball.
Oh, my gosh.
They're starting to make some changes up there. And, of course, a lot of other stuff going on. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The Drive will be back after a quick timeout. Stay tuned for more nonstop sports talk on The Drive, presented by Hardees.
Hardee's Original Bag packs 2 full-size favorites, plus fries and a drink starting at $5.99. Pair any 2 items. Choose from a charbroiled double cheeseburger, hot ham and cheese, or hand-breaded chicken tender wrap. Or choose 2 double cheeseburgers for just $1 more. A great big bag of original goodness starting at just $5.99. Only at Hardee's. Download the Hardee's app and join My Rewards for special offers. These items only, tax not included. Price and participation may vary.
Got an injury that just can't wait? There's no need to delay your care. Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics is excited to announce that our Urgent Ortho Walk-In Clinic is now available on Saturdays at the Gun Barrel Road location. Open from 8 to noon, we're here to treat sprains, strains, fractures, and more. No appointment needed. So skip the long ER wait and get specialized orthopedic care fast. Visit us this Saturday at Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics Urgent Ortho. We're the center for expert care right when you need it. Learn more at sportmed.com.
This is Thomas Williams with Mountain View Nissan of Cleveland. Stop by today and take advantage of Bradley County's largest pre-owned inventory, or visit cleveland-nissan.com, home of the lifetime warranty.
Need a new shop, garage, or other unique space? Explore post-frame building kits from Best Buy Metals. Best Buy Metals kits utilize steel trusses for the ultimate in strength and durability. When you need it to last, call Best Buy Metals. Stop by or visit bestbuymetalroof.com for your custom structure.
Do your legs feel heavy, tired, or achy? Dr. James Gooden at Milligan Vein offers an office treatment that can make you look and feel better, and your procedure is covered by most insurance. Visit milliganvein.com or call Dr. Gooden today at 423-961-5682.
Welcome back to The Drive, presented by Hardees. Join the conversation. Text 423-749-1013. You can also listen anywhere on our website, ESPNCleveland1013.com.
Welcome back to The Drive here on ESPN Cleveland. Once again, Andy Morris along with Jim Gum. And we've been talking some Atlanta Braves baseball. Some other news from around Major League Baseball. The Colorado Rockies, who are 7-33. Yes, Jim, 7 wins and 33 losses. Absolutely horrible. They fired their manager, Bud Black, the day after a 21-0 loss to the San Diego Padres.
You know, this is reminiscent of what happened with the Chicago White Sox just 1 year ago. You know, they're just not. There's a lot of AAA guys on that roster that have no business being in the big leagues. They just, you look at them, they don't look the part, and boy. My sister lives up there. She lives in Colorado Springs, and she goes, "Oh gosh, yes, Jim, it's embarrassing." I'm like, "Yeah, it really is. It's sad to watch." And those fans there, man, when they put a good product on the field, they'll fill up Coors Field.
They do.
But man, when you've got 7 wins midway into May, I'm sorry. There comes a point where you've got to say, "Hey, I want to get a return on my investment," and the fans are not doing, and they're not showing up. And when the fans that do show up are usually rooting for the other team.
Yeah, and my issue with that, like you said, is the product you're putting on the field is not good enough to be a competitive product. And I'll be honest with you, I feel like Bud Black is one of the best managers in Major League Baseball. And so you're going to fire a guy either – if I had to guess, he's probably not on the same page as that front office in Colorado. He's probably frustrated, and they said, "You know what? We're going to go ahead and just get rid of you because it's easy to make you a scapegoat right now and say we're in rebuilding mode."
You got to put a lot of blame on the general manager. He's the guy that builds the roster. The manager does exactly what it's called. He manages the roster. But if you got a bunch of AAA guys and you're going up against the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants night after night after night, I mean, they have no chance against those people. And it's a shame to see what's going on there. You know, we've all seen it. You know, remember the Tigers a few years ago were horrendous. And then last year, the White Sox. We've seen it, for crying out loud. But, man, those fans are just, like I said, they're starving for some kind of success there at Coors Field, and they're not getting it. So, yeah, the scapegoat's always going to be the manager. Like they said, you can't fire the 25 man roster. You fire the coach or the manager, and maybe they'll get a spark under their whoever comes in and takes over that team. But yeah, it's tough over there. In Colorado.
I'm looking at their rotation, and like I consider myself a fairly knowledgeable Major League Baseball fan. There's one guy I recognize in their starting rotation. That's pathetic. It's Kyle Freeland.
Name the other ones off. Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah. Antonio Senzentela.
Nope.
Herman Marquez.
Nope.
Chase Dollander.
I've heard that name.
Yeah, I've heard it, and I think it was because he played in one of those games against the Braves not long ago.
Maybe that's it.
But I mean, other than that,
yeah, the guys that I don't know who these guys are.
And like even looking at their lineup, you go back and like guys like Charlie Blackmon and Troy Tulowitzki and Todd Helton, guys that were recognizable.
Larry Walker,
like, and I'm looking at this lineup, and I don't know these guys.
No, they're a bunch of.
Yeah, and you're going to fire Bud Black over not putting together a team.
Here's my thing: when you've got a team that's 7 and whatever their record is,
Mickey Moniak's probably the best position player on their team.
You got to think, what do we have in the minors? Who do we got at the AAA level? They can't be any worse than what they've got at the big league level. Try some of these young guys out, and boy, you talk about a team that even if they've got any kind of talent. I'm trading those guys and trying to build my roster, get depth as best I can.
You made a good point. Like, to an extent, let's try some of these minor league guys. But I feel like those guys are on the field for him right now.
They are minor league guys.
Yeah, make a move. Go, spend some money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something. They've got to do something, but it's frustrating. I hate it for fan bases like that just – listen, we just watched the Braves and Pirates. The Pirates haven't had a winning season since 2018, Andy. How hard is it to be a fan of the Pirates? First off, they might just play in the best ballpark in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's a beautiful stadium.
It's a great venue.
PNC Park.
And yet the product on the field is horrendous. Now, how they won 2 out of 3 against the Braves is just beyond me.
Hey, it might be the turnaround for them. You never know.
Listen, when you looked at those two teams and you looked at the players and the roster, I thought it's night and day. The Braves.
We talked about it on this show.
A far superior team.
The expectation was a sweep going up there.
Exactly, and yet here they are. The Pirates of they're in deep in last place in the National League Central Division. It's tough to be a fan of some of these ball teams year after year after year. Could you imagine being a Miami Marlins fan? I know they've got those 2 World Series.
Do they have fans?
No, they've got those 2 World Championships. But in between, they're cellar dwellers literally each and every year.
Well, the last one they won, they blew up the team the year after.
Yeah,
they weren't even competitive. So they've always done things a little funky down there in Miami, but they have not. The team that they had that could have been competitive with Christian Yelich and Giancarlo Stanton and all those guys, that was a good team. That was a solid team, and they underperformed. It just wasn't well managed. And then you bring in Don Mattingly, to be your manager, hoping he could get things turned around. And Derek Jeter's making moves for you, and they couldn't do it. How are you a fan of a team like that?
Being an Atlanta Braves fan, you're very, very fortunate because the Braves are in contention more often than not.
We are absolutely spoiled.
The Braves are spoiled from 1992 to the present. For the most part, I'd say 80% of the years, the Braves are at least in contenders or fighting for something. But man. Not every franchise has. It's like I'm a Reds fan. The Reds are horrible.
And listen,
generally.
I'm glad you said that because I saw a graphic today, and I wish I would have taken a screenshot of it. But it said each Major League's team's last World Series appearance, and the Reds, 1990, the Twins, 91.
They beat the Braves.
The Blue Jays, 93. They beat the Braves.
Yeah.
And looking at those teams, first of all, don't even get me started on that Minnesota series. That's
92.
ridiculous.
The 92. The Jays beat the Braves, and 93 the Jays beat the Phillies Joe Carter's walk-off home run. So back-to-back years.
That's right. So 92 was Atlanta.
Yeah.
You're right. But I was looking at that, and I was thinking, how fortunate are we as Braves fans? We've won 2 World Series since then. We've won 2 World Series, and we've been a part of, I couldn't even count how many, because those later on in the 90s. And think if you're a Minnesota Twins fan, the last time you played in the World Series was 91.
Yeah.
The last time as a Reds fan, 1990, and the Reds have had some good teams since then.
95, they were really competitive.
We're
Of course,
spoiled as can be.
yeah, I mean the 95 Reds were really good. Barry Larkin was the NL MVP. Got swept by the Braves in the playoffs. After the Reds swept the Dodgers, but they just couldn't compete against that Atlanta Braves pitching staff, and they have not won a series. It's been decades since they've even won a divisional series, so much less make it to the World Series.
Yeah, some of those teams with Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Larkin, Pokey Reese, I thought some of those teams had the ability to go a little bit deeper in the playoffs than they did. And
they've underperformed more often than not. And I remember one year they were playing the Giants in the playoffs. They won the first 2 games on the road in San Francisco, came home and got swept.
Yeah.
Got swept
That's
at
tough.
home.
That's tough.
So, yeah, it's been tough. As a Reds fan, I count down the days to college football because as an Ohio State fan, I know my team's going to be competitive because they've been my baseball team's non-competitive. Yeah. And as a Bengals fan, you know what? You're just kind of like some years you're really good, sometimes you're really bad. But as an Ohio State football fan, that's why
it's consistent.
I live for Ohio. I know we're going to be good.
And listen, I'm glad you brought football into this equation because, like I said, Braves fans are absolutely spoiled. We have high expectations because the bar's been set. That's a good thing. But what's not a good thing is the people that refer back to the 90s, like the Braves were such underachievers. Time out. If you're one of the 2 best teams in the game playing in that last series of the year, I don't care if you can't seal the deal on all of them or not, and you only win 1 in 95. I've heard more people talk negatively about the 90s Braves that were better than everybody else. That's one thing that, as a coach, as a sports fan, as a former athlete, that absolutely drives me crazy. I'll talk to people around here that, maybe they're an LSU fan or maybe they're an Alabama fan. Listen, Nick Saban in Alabama went on a phenomenal college football run. But when was the last national title they won? How many years ago was that now?
2020.
Okay, so we're approaching 5 years now, and it's like people are like, "Oh, you're a Notre Dame fan? You guys are trash." I'm like, "Time out. We've been in the mix, man. Yeah. We've won 10 games a year. Like that in Major League Baseball. We're in the playoffs every year if you're a Braves fan. Yep. Like that doesn't mean you're just because you can't seal that last game or that last series doesn't make your organization trash. That drives me crazy.
Since 1992, when the Braves went on, or 91, when they won that first, when they went to the World Series, and got beat. Since 1991, the Braves have the best record in the National League. Only the New York Yankees have a better winning percentage than the Atlanta Braves. And since 1991, the Braves have won more divisions than any team in Major League Baseball.
Preach to him, Jim Gum.
It's facts. It's fact. I get only 2 World Series, 95 and 2022.
21, yeah.
21, okay. But my goodness, that's still, more often than not, your team is coming away with a W on most nights. And that's what it's all about. The regular season, having a good feeling about your baseball team. As a Reds fan, I'm sitting there watching the Reds right now flounder. They're 2 games under 500, just same as the Braves right now. But I know that come June and July, they're going to falter, where I feel like the Braves are going to start winning and winning and winning, because historically in the last 2 decades, that's what's been happening. So you, as a Reds fan, as a Pirates fan, as an A's fan, or as a Royals fan, you're used to your team faltering once June, July, and August get here. Why? Because that's what they do on a pretty regular basis.
And that is why. That what you just said right there is why I cannot dive too far deep into the social medias.
Oh, my
because
gosh.
Some of those people on there are absolutely delusional with their expectations. Time out. We could be the Tampa Bay Rays right now. We could be the whatever city we're playing in athletics right now.
Oh, yeah.
Life
exactly.
could be terrible. We got it pretty good as Atlanta Braves fans.
You, as an Atlanta Braves fan, first off, you've got an organization that they know what they're doing. I know the Braves don't have the payroll of the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox. They just don't. But for the payroll they do have, they've got a doggone pretty good general manager that knows what
Who's
he's doing.
made some big-time moves.
And he wins the trades more often than not. I'm a Reds fan. Our general manager loses trades more often than not. That's just the fact. It's just the reality, and it is what it is. And the Braves have a really good front office. They're good talent evaluators. I know that the minor league system isn't where it once was maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Because they're on the majors now.
Right, because they're in the majors. So you got to rebuild that minor league system. They will. You know why? Because they want to. I've always said this. The teams that want to win the most will win the most. And they'll find a way to get it done. They will find a way to get it done. And as a Braves fan, you're very, very fortunate.
Yeah. Hey, you know who is winning right now?
Who's that?
The Vandy boys.
Oh, boy.
Listen, and listen,
Man.
I'm not trying to ruffle feathers. I'm just stating the facts. The Vanderbilt Commodores take down the Base Vols, the University of Tennessee.
The defending national champions,
Coach
mind you.
Vitello's Base Vols up there in Knoxville. Vanderbilt took that series 2-1. Tennessee, played a solid game, 3-2 win in game 1. After that, it was all Commodores, 10-6 in game 2, 7-5 in game 3, and things got a little heated.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah,
I love it, though, man.
It's good for college baseball. And listen, and I know a lot of Tennessee baseball fans that probably more so now than I knew in the past because they're having some success. I'll say that.
They are.
But I know some people that have been Tennessee baseball fans for a long time, and the way they feel and think about Tony Vitello is how you should feel and think about your head coach. He's the type of guy, and I can relate to this, and I'm going to tell you why, and then I'm going to let you have the floor, Jim.
Okay.
The way I see Tony Vitello for them is the same way as a Notre Dame football fan I saw Brian Kelly for us when we were winning 10 games a year. And the difference is Tony Vitello has won a national title. Brian Kelly has not and will not ever win a national title. But I felt, hey, that's our guy. He's a jerk, but he's our jerk.
He's our jerk.
A lot of other teams in college baseball cannot stand Tony Vitello because he coaches with a lot of fire and enthusiasm and isn't afraid to kind of get in your face mentality. And in game 3 there against Vanderbilt, after the game, he came out, and I wish we had the best angle and TV footage of it. But from what I've read, and you can't, again, I said this a minute ago, you can't believe the message boards. But I've read a lot of, the Vanderbilt pitcher that came in and closed the game was pumped up, fired up, looking at his dugout. And Tony Vitello came out to meet his team on the field and apparently started chirping. And then at that time, the Vanderbilt pitcher and team kind of turned around and was like, you want confrontation? Here comes the confrontation. And the benches cleared out and everybody met at midfield. It was nothing too crazy. But that's why those Tennessee volunteer baseball players are relevant now, because they love to play for that guy.
You know who he reminds me of, and this is going back, I like to equate everything to football. Tony Vitello, the coach of the Tennessee baseball team, reminds me of 2 football coaches. One, Barry Switzer, the other one, Jimmy Johnson. When those guys were the coach, the better if they were out there, in college when he was at Oklahoma, talking about Switzer, and when Jimmy Johnson was the University of Miami or the Dallas Cowboys, they wanted their team to be a reflection of their personality, and they didn't care if you hated them or not, but you knew you feared them, and that's what their mentality was. That we are better than you. We know we're better than you. And you know we're better than you. And that was their mentality. And Vitello, his players kind of used that chip on their shoulder, if you want to call it that, us against the world mentality, which sometimes it makes the other team, the other fans hate your guts, and maybe the other team hates your guts. But we're in this together. It's us against the world mentality. And sometimes it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. But, boy, it's effective. I mean, they won a college baseball World Series last year doing the same thing. Honestly, the team that won the championship in 2024 at Tennessee, to me, wasn't as good as the 2023 team that got beat by Notre Dame in the Super Regionals there in Knoxville.
I enjoyed that a little bit.
I bet you did. But they have that chip on their shoulder type mentality, and they play with a chip on their shoulder. You'll see a Tennessee guy that hit a home run, and he'll be chirping around the bases to the opponent. And at some point, it's going to cause the other team to get so mad they're going to try to plunk the next guy
Yeah.
and start a little bit of a brawl.
Causes some chaos.
It does. It causes chaos. And Tennessee baseball fans, they love it.
Yeah. And see, on the opposite end of that spectrum, I feel like Tim Corbin, he's the senior statesman up there at Vanderbilt. He's been there, done that. He's won the national titles.
Yep.
And we said this before we came on the show today. Tim Corbin is respected and loved all across college baseball, and even in Major League Baseball. He's brought on MLB Network all the time as like a guest analysis and stuff. And I feel like if you could relate him to somebody, and I'm speaking to our crowd down here, our college football crowd, I feel like you would almost relate him to that likable, that grandfather type. I'm going to shift away from college football. I'm going to say like Bobby Cox almost, where watching the guy coach and seeing how much his players love him and how easygoing he is until he needs to stand up for his player. That's Tim Corbin. So I feel like him and Vitello, different methods, same result.
Yeah, exactly. So it was fun this past weekend. Obviously, Tennessee, Vanderbilt wins 2 out of 3. But, man, I still think the Vols are a dangerous, dangerous team. Listen, the regular season's ending this weekend. And then this time next Monday, we'll be talking about the seeding of the College Baseball World Series. It'll be, they'll release the 64 teams on Sunday night. It's going to be fun to see, and I'm sure Tennessee will host. I know they're going to host a regional. If they're high enough, they could sneak in and get a super regional. But they're going to have to sweep this weekend or have a really good showing down there in Hoover at the SEC tournament.
Yeah, currently LSU, the number 1 ranked team in the country, Florida State 2, Texas 3, and listen, don't sleep on that Florida State team. They're dangerous.
They're very good.
And,
very good.
And that's my old coach down there. And when I say my, being a Notre Dame fan, he'd made the move from Notre Dame. He was the coach on that 23 team you were referring to, and he's an FSU alumni and's got things going really well down there in Tallahassee as the number 2 team in the country. Again, Texas 3, North Carolina 4, Oregon 5, and then jumping to Auburn at 6, Arkansas 8, Vanderbilt 9, Georgia 10. A lot of SEC teams right there in that top 10, and Tennessee is currently sitting at 17th.
Hey, listen to this. Here's the craziest stat of the year. The number 1 team in preseason was Texas A&M. Prior to this weekend, Missouri hadn't won a single game in the conference. They swept Texas A&M. Andy, Texas A&M almost has to win the SEC tournament just to make the College World Series field of 64. The number 1 preseason team has absolutely fallen on their face this year. I've never seen anything like
that's
this.
That's how good the SEC is this year in college baseball. And I say this year, the past few years, the SEC has kind of made some separation.
Oh, they have.
And I think that the ACC is kind of starting to take notice a little bit because back in the day, they're Clemson, Miami, Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those – when you thought college baseball, those were kind of the first teams to kind of come to mind outside of LSU and Mississippi State. And between Vanderbilt and Tennessee and Georgia, I mean, Arkansas has been talk about a team that's been so close but no cigar.
That team is one you keep thinking they're going to win it. They're going to win it. They're going to win it. And here they are. They haven't won a championship yet. And I keep thinking the Arkansas is. But the preseason number 1 team, I don't know if it's ever happened, Andy, has the preseason number 1 team ever not made the field of 64 when they expanded to 64. I'd be willing to bet that's probably never happened. Maybe they weren't. Maybe the preseason team wasn't highly seeded, but to not make the field of 64, there's a real chance that A&M is going to be sitting at home unless they have a deep run in Hoover, Alabama this coming weekend or next week, I should say. We'll see, but I don't have any expectations for Texas A&M because they've shown all season long they're just another team. Well, they're actually a below average team in the SEC, which is doggone crazy.
I've got an answer for you. So the most recent time that's happened, that a preseason number 1 baseball team has not made the NCAA tournament. I'm not going to say this because it gave, even though I specifically said baseball, it gave me basketball.
Okay. My thing is, and I'm sure
getting ahead of myself.
The number 1 team probably hasn't made the field, but have they not made the field since they've expanded to 64 is one of my So I would say when it was at 32 or whenever, I know at one point the number was a lot smaller. The baseball field was much smaller than it currently is. But I can't imagine a team that was number one not making the field of 64. That's the thing I don't think it's ever happened. It might not happen this year, but boy, A&M's trying their best to make it happen to where they don't make the field. So yeah, interesting to see if that all occurs or not.
So let's go ahead and shift over a little bit since we've got our baseball coverage in. And when we come back from this break, we're going to talk some Tennessee football.
Oh, Lord. We got a
You excited about that conversation, Jim?
Yes. We are going to have fun with this, though, for sure.
So we'll be right back here on The Drive.
The Drive will be back after a quick timeout. Stay tuned for more nonstop sports talk on The Drive, presented by Hardees.
You can't run, you can't hide, but you can drive. Drive away from your credit challenges today at Kia Cleveland on South Lee Highway. This is John Davis at Kia Cleveland announcing our credit forgiveness event. Our lenders will forgive your credit sins and your misdeeds and say yes to you and yes to financing your dream car. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition and give you $7,000 over Kelley Blue Book fair value toward the purchase of any new Kia Sorento EX in our huge inventory. That's right, $7,000 more than your trade is worth. Don't forget it. I'll beat any deal from anywhere in Georgia, Tennessee, or Alabama. Drive away from your credit challenges today and come see me, John Davis, during our credit forgiveness event at Kia Cleveland on South Lee Highway in beautiful Cleveland, Tennessee, where getting approved is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Looking for the dealer who's gonna give you more. Kia of Cleveland Superstore.
Subject to lender approval. Offers don't combine. Expires month end.
KiaofCleveland.com.
Listen to the Alon Exchange, hosted by financial professionals Jay and Brittany Hagee, owners of Alon Planning Partners. Each week, they discuss all things financial and answer your questions about investing, preparing for retirement, paying down debt, and more. The Alon Exchange, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. Don't miss the Paul Feinbaum Show, weekday afternoons from 2 until 5 on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. Always topical, always entertaining. Paul Feinbaum on ESPN Cleveland 101.3, presented by Hardees. ESPN Cleveland 101.3 is powered by Duracell.
Make sure your vehicle is winter ready with a visit to Cleveland Tire Center, providing full service auto care, including oil changes and brake service, plus a lot more. Cleveland Tire Center, North Lee Highway, Cleveland, where the name says it all.
For a quarter of a century, Mix 104.1 has been taking you out to the ball game.
Swanson to first. The Braves are world champions.
Since 2000, Mix 104.1 has been the home of the Atlanta Braves, and we're celebrating by giving away tickets to Atlanta Braves games all summer long. Listen for your chance to call or text to qualify. You can also register at the Mix socials on Facebook and Instagram. Braves 25 is presented by Cleveland Ford. Honest people, honest deals.
Magnolia Dental Center of Cleveland wants to welcome you to the Magnolia family, a local dental clinic that uses their God-given knowledge and skills to bless our community through dentistry. From checkups and cleanings to dentures and all-on-4 dental implants, they can help you feel healthier and more confident. Conveniently located at 2190 Chambliss Avenue, join the Magnolia family today. Call 423-476-3307 for your free exam and x-rays.
Since 1993, Check Into Cash has offered cash solutions to our customers. The application process is simple, and the lending decisions are quick. If you've been approved, you can leave our store with cash in hand. Our loan options are built to handle life's small emergencies. We offer reliable payday loans and line of credit options. Visit our website at checkintocash.com to learn more about your options, and when you're ready, drop by our conveniently located stores in the Chattanooga area, including Cleveland and Athens, to apply. We also offer various in-store financial services like check cashing, money orders, wire transfers, and even gift card buyback. Take the first step toward a bright financial future. We're here to help and aim to be your one-stop money shop. Not all consumers will qualify. Eligibility, rates, terms, and conditions apply. Rates, restrictions, and fees apply to store services. Please call or visit your local store for details.
From the Kia of Cleveland Studios, this is ESPN Cleveland 101.3, WCLE HD2 Cleveland, W267BI Cleveland, ESPN Cleveland 101.3. Welcome back to The Drive, presented by Hardees. Join the conversation. Text 423-749-1013. You can also listen anywhere on our website, ESPNCleveland1013.com.
You're listening to The Drive here on ESPN Cleveland on a rainy Monday afternoon. So if you're in your car, slow it down a little bit because the hydroplaning is real, folks. Even if you got brand new tires when it's raining this hard, your car will hydroplane if you're going a little bit too fast. Hey, our neighbors across the street from here at our studios, Duracell, they are now hiring mechanical skilled technicians, $22.17 to $27 per hour. Excellent benefits beginning on day number 1. Medical, dental, and vision insurance, paid vacation, holiday pay, 401k, tuition reimbursement, and more. Apply now at Duracell.com. That's Duracell.com. Now, Andy, when we were going to break, we were going to talk a little bit about what I had a conversation over the weekend about Tennessee football and mostly about the quarterback position. Now, my take is, and you may agree or you may disagree, is that in the spring, Nico Iamaleava was getting all of the first-team reps, and he was getting all the first-team reps. Why? Because he was the best quarterback on the roster, not taking anything away from George McIntyre or Jake Merklinger or anyone else. But the reason he was getting number ones, working with the number ones, because he was the best talent on that roster. Now, the guy I had a little conversation with yesterday. He says, we're better off. Tennessee's better off without him. He's not that good. We're better as a unit. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, hold on. No, Tennessee's not better. I know Joey Aguilar is a nice quarterback along with McIntyre and Jake, but Tennessee's not their quarterback room is not better talent-wise. They're just not. And I don't know how you feel about it. I got a little bit of a heated conversation with this guy. I said the same thing about George. I said, listen, you can say what you want about Gunnar Stockton. Good quarterback. He's not better than Carson Beck. There's a reason Carson Beck was the starting quarterback. And I went back to that. We went back and forth, man. It was bad.
Well, it kind of goes back to that old theory, like, if you're not going to be my date, you're ugly. Like,
that's exactly right.
And so the way I look at this, and I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here, but do I think Tennessee football is better off without the Nico Iamaleava drama? I do. I really do. Do I think the quarterback room specifically is better? Absolutely not. Nico had a lot of talent, was making millions of dollars for a reason. UCLA was willing to bring him on and pay him when they already had a guy that was a starter. And maybe his brother being a package deal had something to do with that to an extent. But Nico was a guy that a lot of people considered the best, if not the second best quarterback of that class. And 5-star, right. You know, Tennessee wouldn't have made a big deal about it when they signed the guy if they didn't expect him to be the guy for a long time. Now, looking at what they have now, I think Joey Aguilar is going to bring kind of like a Rocky Balboa mentality to the position. And I don't think it's going to be anywhere remotely the same as far as the expectation or the hype or even the tangibles like the arm talent and things like that. I don't think he's Nico, but I do think he's going to have that underdog grit and fire that he's going to be a competitive quarterback. But do I think the room's better off? Morally, maybe.
Team chemistry-wise,
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I say morally, I mean like when it comes to like what's more important, my teammates or my payday. We know where Nico stands on that.
Right, and I get that, and I agree with a lot of what you just said, and I really believe that George McIntyre has a huge upside, and I think at some point he may be a better quarterback than Nico Iamaleava. But in 2025 is my thing. In 2025, Nico Iamaleava was Tennessee's best option at having a better football team. I believe that Tennessee would have been a preseason top 10 team.
I think so too.
This year. Without him, I think Tennessee will be ranked 16, 15, somewhere in there. And I think the same is true with Georgia. With Carson Beck, I think Georgia is maybe a top 5 team in the preseason. With Gunnar Stockton, I think Georgia maybe around 10.
Do you
maybe a little, maybe 9 or something. But I don't think they're going to be ranked preseason as high as if they would be had Carson Beck.
Well, I was going to ask you this too. Do you not feel like Georgia with Gunnar Stockton is in a much, much better position than Tennessee?
Yes, I do.
Mainly because the guy's been in your system.
Yes, I absolutely do.
And you're basically taking Joey Aguilar, who has been at Appy State, went to UCLA for a cup of coffee, and now he's in Knoxville, and missed the spring, and you're saying you're going to be our guy day one. I don't know that maybe Merklinger is not your best option. I don't know that McIntyre, he's a guy that I'm really high on.
Yeah.
I'm really high on him. Phenomenal quarterback for Brentwood Academy. I think long-term, he's your guy.
But the unfortunate thing that happened with Tennessee was all this drama took place at the end of spring practice where these guys didn't get the reps that they should have gotten had all this stuff happened prior to the day before spring game, basically. So the timing was just horrendous. So the reps that McIntyre or Merklinger could have gotten, they were not able to because Nico was the guy, and he was going to be Tennessee's starting quarterback to begin the 2025 season when they opened it against Syracuse. Now that's not the case, and it's unfortunate, but it's reality.
Yeah, and I know you and I on this show, we kind of beat it like a dead horse, the whole Nico situation, and it was because every day something new was coming out, be it the things that had already happened or things that were getting ready to happen, and then you get the dynamic of his brother leaving Arkansas and going to. It was an endless, chaotic, just mess. Just an ugly orange storm over Knoxville is what it was. And I do think the football team, I think Josh Heupel, I think Vol fans are in a better position having Nico off that roster as far as all that goes. But when it comes to the talent, the guy's talented. But this is where I want to play devil's advocate a little bit better too. A lot of Tennessee fans might say, did you see the performance in the big games?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. He underperformed. There's no way that you can defend him when it came to the big games. He did not show up like we thought he should.
You're a Buckeye guy. You saw how he went up to Columbus.
He was, of course, now.
He wasn't a guy that was going to take over the game and win it.
Tennessee's offensive line let him down in that game. But even at time,
do you think they had a reason to?
Well, here's the thing. When he did have time, he was missing guys. He really was missing guys. He wasn't as sharp as we. When he was the starting quarterback at the start of the 2024 season, I thought everyone was saying, well, he could be dark horse Heisman guy. Well, he was nowhere near that.
No, not at all.
He really didn't play to the expectations. But I thought in year 2 as a starter, I thought 2025 was going to be the breakout year for Nico Iamaleava in Knoxville. Obviously, we'll never know now. But I really do buy into the hype of him coming out of high school. I think he's a 5-star for a reason because I think the guy has a load of talent. And I think it was going to show in 2025. But there again, if he does show in 2025, it'll be for the Bruins.
Yeah, and this is what I do think. I think that most Tennessee fans are very optimistic that Joey Aguilar is going to show up and it's going to be Baker Mayfield from Texas Tech to Oklahoma all over again.
Maybe.
I think that's the optimism as a Tennessee fan. Now, is that a reality? No one would have ever guessed that with Baker Mayfield when he left Texas Tech, went to Oklahoma. No one ever knew that's how that was going to go down.
Nope.
But as I'm looking at this, can you imagine a storyline any better for people here in East Tennessee or the SEC or college football in general than Joey Aguilar showing up and being the guy with the biggest chip on his shoulder with something to prove, saying, oh, you guys wanted Nico, UCLA? Have fun at the bottom of the Big Ten and watch me ball out here for the Vols. I do think it could be a very fun, very exciting year for Tennessee football. And you mentioned this with preseason rankings when we're talking baseball. teams that have been ranked number one not making the postseason. Those preseason rankings, as much as we love to talk about them and get excited about them, they don't mean anything. You gotta put cleats to turf and let the action happen.
You know what the preseason polls are good for? Talk radio.
That's it.
You know what? It's great for us
Honestly.
because now we can rip on them when they perform and everything else. But it is going to be interesting. Listen, I will tell you this. I know this much. Every Tennessee fan I know is rooting against the UCLA Bruins. Every game.
They don't have to root too hard. I don't think they're going to have a lot of success.
They're going to root against UCLA having any success because they are absolutely the scourge of Tennessee football fans. So it will be fun to watch Tennessee without him. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to be watching UCLA a little bit closer. I want to see what Nico does out there in Los Angeles playing for the Bruins. So I will be watching. I'll be paying more attention to UCLA than I typically am, just because of the dynamic.
Listen, college football is missing out on a huge, big money opportunity not having a home and home between those two teams.
Oh my gosh!
Over the next
Could
2
you
years,
imagine if they were to somehow meet up in a bowl game?
Holy
cow.
Listen, if I'm a bowl game, if I'm the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which in my opinion is one of the most fun bowl games in all of the bowl games, if I'm
the Duke's Mayo Bowl is right up there.
Yeah,
too.
that one too. But if I'm one of those, it kind of depends on the playoff layout. I'd have to look at the playoff bracket for which bowl games are involved. But if you're a major bowl game and both of those teams aren't playoff bound, and you're one of these bigger tier bowl games, I want those two teams.
Put them in the Las Vegas Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Man, I tell you what, that would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun. I would love to see Tennessee and UCLA. Now, I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, Tennessee and UCLA used to play quite often in early preseason game or early season games, and they haven't done that in a long time. I don't know if you know this, but I went out to Los Angeles in 1994 to watch Tennessee open the season at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. Copeland was the starting quarterback. He gets hurt. Then they put, multiple guys in. Finally, Peyton Manning gets in there. Brandon Stewart played. Todd Helton played, for crying out loud. UCLA won that game. Tennessee, I think, had 4 quarterbacks playing that game. But I was there. That's when Tennessee and UCLA used to really play semi-regularly. I'd love to get that series going back again.
And I know, I believe it was maybe early 2000s where Tennessee picked Cal up kind of in that same early season matchup with the West Coast team like UCLA. But given this scenario, this circumstance, basically trading quarterbacks, I mean, this would be if there's any way that can be made to happen in a bowl game, or even if next season we've seen teams buy out of contracts before and get a game open. If you can make it line up somehow, there's a lot of money to be made right there in that matchup. And honestly, I think fan base wise, UCLA's fan base is not that. I'm not bashing them because I don't like them.
USC's the best team in that market. They just are.
But UCLA had home games last year where they were not filling up sections in the bottom part of the bowl behind their bench.
Yeah.
It was ugly.
They average. I think their average attendance was 46,000 last year, and they play in a 90,000 seat stadium. Although when they played Big Ten teams, the Rose Bowl was a little bit fuller, but usually because of the opponents' fans that live in the L.A. area are like, hey, we get to watch Indiana gets to play UCLA. Yeah, let's go to the Rose Bowl and watch our Hoosiers play, which, by the way, Indiana throttled. Yeah. That's when I knew Indiana was pretty good, when Indiana went out there to Los Angeles and throttled UCLA, and I was like, wow, Indiana looks pretty good. Needless to say, they ended up 11-1. But no, so you see a lot of the opposing fan bases fill up the Rose Bowl, which helps their attendance numbers for sure.
And you've got me fired up about college football now, Jim. It's
105 days away.
This was not on the game plan today, and we're talking college football. It gets me going.
I'm going to say something, Andy. College football is always going to be part of the game plan. When I'm here, I'm passionate about it, man.
We're going to work our way back to it. And listen, I don't care what anybody says about Nico Imaliava, but if you remotely believe the fact that he went and left Tennessee for a better opportunity, or it wasn't about money, or yada, 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 I would believe that if he was in Tuscaloosa right now, which it wasn't possible being able to transfer inside the SEC. Can't do that during the spring transfer portal. But I would have believed it if he was at Michigan. I would have believed it if he was at Ohio State. I do not believe it with him being at UCLA.
They miscalculated his camp.
They dropped the ball.
They miscalculated. They thought Tennessee would cave. Tennessee didn't cave. Then they thought that going into the transfer portal. But you go into the transfer portal after spring is over with all these other schools. Their quarterback situation was set because of spring. So the timing to enter the portal in the spring is a humongous blunder. And I blame his dad, his handlers, whoever all those people were. They miscalculated, and they miscalculated huge.
Yeah, his best bet, but Carson Beck beat him to the punch, would have been going to Miami.
Right.
Somewhere like that.
But Carson Beck entered it at the right time 2 months earlier. You enter at the end of spring,
you limit yourself.
You get big time because all these rosters are already set across the country, and it is what it is. So, but UCLA, listen, we'll see how think about this. Nico Imaliava, his spring practice was in Knoxville. He didn't have spring practice with UCLA. So when UCLA convenes to get prepared for the 2025 football season, they have a short window to get all this stuff down. I'm sure the playbook's going to be much smaller than had he been there all during spring.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to college football season, and we're going to dive into a lot more that's going on in the college football world as we get a little bit closer. I know I've got the itch. I'm excited about it. But, hey, one thing I do want to ask you, and listen, we're going some overtime today here on the drive. It is currently 6:08. And, hey, no problem with that because a quick update on our scheduling. The Braves will be on Mix 104.1 tonight for that 7:15 first pitch down in Atlanta as the Braves take on the Washington Nationals. But right here on ESPN Cleveland, the Celtics-Knicks game will take place at 7. So we've got some time. We're okay. We're safe. We're not cutting into the Braves pregame now.
NBA draft lotteries tonight, too. I'm not a big NBA fan, but I kind of pay attention to the lottery. I want to see who is going to get that first selection. And here, by the way, are the odds. The Utah Jazz, the Washington Wizards, and the Charlotte Hornets, all three of those teams have a 14% chance of getting that number one pick. The New Orleans Pelicans have a 12.5% chance, and the Philadelphia 76ers, 10.5%. And, of course, Cooper Flagg is the odds-on favorite to be the number one.
And he probably should be.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question. Now, I know you won't know the answer. Last year, the Atlanta Hawks
Jim.
wait a minute. All right, I'm going to ask you. The 2024 NBA first round, the Atlanta Hawks had the number one pick. Who was it? I bet you don't know.
Who was the number one pick last year? I do not know the answer to that.
Zachary Reichler, some guy from Europe.
Never would have got it.
See, here's the thing. This just sounds so bad. If you don't select an American-born player as the number one pick, people don't know these people. Nobody in Atlanta knew who this guy was. I don't even know who he is, and he played for the Hawks all last year.
Unless it's someone that just has a huge draw.
But everyone knows Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
So he's going to be the face of whatever franchise gets him, and they'll build around him. But I think it's important. I know it sounds terrible to say, but if you get a non-American to be the face of your franchise, I don't think the fans can identify with him as well, especially if they can't speak good English.
Well, this is I'm gonna give you a scenario here because I do disagree.
That's fine.
Yao Ming, that guy, everybody knew who he was.
Well, yeah, because he was a freak of nature.
Until the injuries happened, he was pretty dang dominant. Yeah. So Yao Ming is a guy who
Wembanyama from the plays for San Antonio. Everyone knew him from France.
But, listen, Shohei Ohtani in Major League Baseball, if you've got the opportunity to draft that guy, I think that's the scenario where, and listen, I'm not a Shohei guy. I'm not a huge Shohei Ohtani fan.
Yeah.
But I think those guys are so captivating in what they did and how they did it that those are your examples of where that's the exception.
I get you.
But I do think for the most part, when you got a Cooper Flagg or a LeBron James, a guy like that has such a draw to your sport, but there's going to be those few instances maybe 1 out of 10 years or 1 out of 15 years that there is a Yao Ming or someone like that.
Right. But anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. And honestly, I think the Boston Celtics are going to throttle the Knicks once again. The road teams won every game in that series.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, this NBA semifinal, it's like the road team wins almost every night. It's the darndest thing I've ever seen. But, I mean, man, did you see Indiana? They were up 80-39 at halftime yesterday over Cleveland. 80-39. I've never seen a halftime score like that.
Listen, and I feel like ever since the NBA has expanded the playoffs, it's not – I can think back to the early 2000s and, you know, the matchups between the Lakers and the Sacramento Kings early were competitive and fun.
Yeah.
Or as I know they met in the West Coast Finals, Western Coast Finals, the Conference Finals,
Western Conference Finals, yeah.
But, I mean, there were matchups early in the playoffs then that, hey, this might go the length, might go the distance, and this is going to be fun to watch. I feel like a lot of people aren't watching these early rounds as much.
I agree. And I still, like I said, I'm actually pulling for if the Cleveland Cavaliers don't win it, I would like to see Oklahoma City win it. That franchise they've been on, they were so close about a decade ago, and they didn't get it done. But I'd love to see this franchise win an NBA title if Cleveland does, because I like the Cavs. I've always liked the Cavs before LeBron.
Yeah, same here.
But we'll see. So Oklahoma City is my team if Cleveland doesn't win it. But I don't pay as much attention to the NBA Finals or NBA playoffs as a lot of people do, but I pay a little.
Once the finals sneak around, I pay a lot more attention. And if it's a good matchup in the conference finals.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Say the Braves are playing the Dodgers, and the NBA Finals are on.
Braves Dodgers.
Same here.
Yeah.
You and I are watching a regular season, one of 162 games over an NBA Finals. That's me too, and that tells a lot. And I think a lot of people in the South are the same way.
Yeah, I think that if you were to match up the time periods of a regular season SEC football game against the NBA Finals, same thing.
Yeah, it's not even close.
I would watch a Vanderbilt and Kentucky football game between those two, but probably before I'd watch the NBA Finals.
I'm one of these guys that I'll watch a college football regular season game over just about any other sporting event that's out there.
Yeah, I think part of it too is I think Adam Silver has allowed the NBA to go soft. And when I say that is, you know what made the NBA fun outside of Michael Jordan in the 90s? How dang tough those guys were.
Oh, my goodness.
They would beat each other up on the court within the rules. And it was like,
unless you were playing the Pistons, then it was against the rules.
Yeah, and
now, those guys were beasts.
And now the face of your league's nickname's LaFlop. Yeah. Like, that's not good.
No, it's not.
And I think even LeBron, I liked LeBron as a young player. Don't like him so much anymore. I think that he has transitioned because the league has catered to him a lot.
Well,
he was tougher when he was younger.
I think it's time for LeBron to retire. I hope that this next year, I hope this is his final season. I hope he announces it because I think he needs to be celebrated when he goes to different cities.
Yeah.
But he's still really good.
The whole stuff with his son on the Lakers.
I don't want to see LeBron James playing when he doesn't look like himself. You know what I'm saying?
Do you know what? And that makes me think back. And I'm a longevity guy. Like, I love the guys that can keep playing when they're older. Listen, when Julio Franco was with the Braves, love the guy. Watching Michael Jordan in a Wizards uniform did not seem right.
No, it didn't.
And you could tell he started to struggle, and you felt bad for him. And as long as God gives you the ability to keep doing it, I understand you want to try to do it. But it was so tough to watch Michael Jordan not be the guy.
The worst I can remember, there's two of them. When Johnny Unitas got traded from the Colts to the San Diego Chargers, he looked horrible. First, he didn't look right in that uniform. He did not look like himself. And when Willie Mays was traded from the San Francisco Giants to the New York Mets, he was a shell of himself. And what's so bad is that I remember that, and I wish I didn't. I wish I never saw Johnny Unitas play when he shouldn't have been playing. And the same with Willie Mays. It hurt me. And you know what? Another guy, Dan Marino, his last year as a Miami Dolphin, didn't look like the quarterback that I remembered. He stayed around 1 year too long.
Yeah, and, kind of going on to this too, and it was a career that just kind of fizzled out, but Del Murphy is a Philly.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
That's a tough one, man.
He didn't look right in that uniform,
No,
did he?
no, that's a tough one.
When Joe Namath, he played his last year with the Los Angeles Rams, they didn't look like Joe Namath. You know, he should have been in green and white, and here he was playing in the gold and blue of the Rams. I'm like, what is he doing there?
Joe Namath is a nut, man. He's still kicking.
I still remember that at halftime when he's asking Susie Colbert, "Can I kiss you?" You know, he was
that was rough. That was rough.
He took some heat. Boy, good thing social media went around back then.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it was bad enough.
And
as
I remember
it was.
that was everyone was kind of cringing as they were watching it. Hey, so. And how did you feel about Joe Montana not being a 49er?
You know, he played those years with the Kansas City Chiefs, and, you know, he did okay. But there again, you have so many guys hang on too long, and you get this mindset. You're like, he doesn't look like the guy that I remember. He didn't look like Super Joe.
Yeah.
Joe Cool, whatever you want to call him. But it happens.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll see a guy like Brett Favre who does it. Who, listen, he retired, came out of retirement, retired again, came out of retirement. I don't know how many times, but you'll see spurts of that greatness. But then you just see him struggle, and that the struggle is the hard part.
Do you know the weirdest look I've ever seen was when Pete Rose played with the Montreal Expos. You talk about a guy that didn't look right in a uniform. Whew, that was rough.
Yeah.
For sure.
Listen, some good overtime here on the drive today. Last thing I got for you, because we did talk some Tennessee Vol football quarterback. Going back to that Ohio State-Tennessee game, what was your take on that? Was that more Ohio State being better than Tennessee, or was that Tennessee struggling and not clicking?
Well, I think it was Ohio State being better because then they showed it against Oregon. They showed it against Texas. They showed it against Notre Dame. They just really hit their stride. And that Tennessee game kick-started them, and they never let up from there. So each and every game after that, they showed what they were really capable of doing. And, I think that was more of an Ohio State really playing their best football starting in the middle of December.
Yeah, last thing I got for everybody, the high school region tournament in baseball took place this weekend. Region champions, Bradley Central Bears, Travis Adams Bears getting it done on the diamond. And, man, it seems like every single year, it doesn't matter what happens, they come out competitive and are in the mix, and they beat Cleveland 2-1. Listen, every single game in that tournament was a close game.
Yep.
It just kind of crazy seeing how everything unfolded. Obviously, last Thursday, Cleveland defeated Ooltewah 14-6, which was the only game that wasn't technically close. It was 6-6 in like the fifth inning, though. And then Friday, Bradley defeated Walker Valley 1-0 in that pitcher's duel between Tyler Cook and Titus Torbett. And then, of course, the region championship game on Sunday, which this is where the weather came into effect, and it was just a mess trying to keep that field playable over there at Cleveland. But region championship game, once again, Bradley defeated Cleveland 2-1, and then Ooltewah defeated Walker Valley in that playback game 4-3 on a walk-off. So that game, I know, for the Mustangs was a heartbreaker. And then the region runner-up game, another one-run game. It was Cleveland over Ooltewah 5-4. So Bradley region champs, Cleveland region runner-up, and advancing on. So good for them. And we're going to do a lot more coverage on both of those teams as the week continues.
Well, man, it's been a fun show. I can't wait till tomorrow. We'll see if the Braves can get the win against Washington. We shall see.
Come on, Bravo, Snit. No quit with Snit. We got to get back on track.
From the Kia of Cleveland Studios, this is ESPN Cleveland 1013, WCLE HD2 Cleveland, W267BI Cleveland, ESPN Cleveland 1013. It's time for a Don Ledford of Cleveland traffic update on ESPN Cleveland 1013. Don Ledford Chevrolet Buick GMC, located on North Lee Highway in Cleveland, or visit donledford.com for details. Don Ledford, where we say yes. It's on-time traffic with Commander Chuck.
Good afternoon. It's really busy now. 153 trying to get back into Hickson across at Chickamauga.